or no one knows where they've been for the past 3 months. So no one knows where Xing's been for the past 3 months. 3 months had passed, but because he didn't check off multiple boxes, it was not a criminal case, which feels contradictory, okay? It feels dumb. It's a bit of a huge double standard. The police state that the security footage evidence had not been cut or edited, but it was too late. The public, they were having a whole media frenzy with this one. Netizens yelled at the police, if he's alive, we want to see a person. If he's dead, we want to see a body. Ultimately, January 28th of 2023, the police would have an entirely new problem on their hands. Xing's body would be found. A security guard was about 0.18 miles away from the main school building. 0.2 miles. I think I said it was under a mile. It's 0.2 miles.
Wow.
Yeah. And the guard dog was barking. He followed his guard dog up to a big red brick wall, and there were overgrown trees in front of it. Hanging from one of the tree branches between the red brick wall and the trees was a decomposing body. Police rushed to the scene and immediately stated that they knew that this was Xing. They stated that his black zip-up hoodie was still on him, his shoes were on the ground below him, and curiously, his recording pen, the one that he used to record his lectures, it was on the wall. This wall, the red brick wall, had like little ledges that technically he could climb up to so that he could hang himself or to put a pen. A lot of his students were seen climbing up and down these walls before, which is suspicious because that means everyone knows that this shed exists, so why didn't they search it? So at first glance, the police believe that he committed suicide. There's conspiracies on why the police might lie about something like this, but let's explore the route, shall we? In order to do that, we have to take it back to 2019. His body is found in 2023, but the story starts in 2019, according to the police. COVID was a rough time for Xing. His grades started dropping. He was like the ultimate student until COVID. And not because he was watching too much anime, but COVID hit China sooner than it did the US, obviously. So Xing was already doing online school in 2019. And for the first few months, he did okay. But like a lot of other students, the lack of routine, communication, motivation, even the lack of interpersonal connections, Xing starts declining in his performance. It was just so mundane he couldn't focus. He spent the last 2 years of middle school like this until June 2022. He took the high school entrance exam. In China, there's not just a college entrance exam, there are high school entrance exams. The higher you score, the better the high school that you get placed into, which is insane because the high school kind of sets you up for the college that you go to, which sets you up for life. So by the time that you're in 8th grade, your whole life is in the trajectory of this one freaking exam. Insane. I can't even. So most middle schoolers in China are probably more stressed out than a 40-year-old in America. Like the amount of pressure they face is astronomical. So Xing knew his grades had been slipping recently with all the online classes, but he had been preparing for these exams since like the beginning of his life, okay? He was stressed, but he was ready until he wasn't ready. The stress weakened his immune system, and just a couple days before his exam, he came down with a massive fever.
Oh my gosh.
But you can't just skip it. Because you got sick, you got to be like hospitalized for them to even allow you to retake this exam later. It's that serious. So he shows up, takes the test, and ends up getting a 531 out of 850. Out of the 1,300 students in his school that took it, he ranked 650th, which is kind of like smack dab in the middle. He was an average student. He was devastated. The high school that he had been fixated on his whole life since he was in elementary school, he's like, this is the high school I want to go to. He had just missed the cutoff by like 19 points. So instead of attending his dream school, his parents got him into a private boarding school in a different province, which is why they were like 3 hours away. I believe the tuition for this place was about $5,000 a year. And his parents asked him multiple times if he wanted them to stay with him, but he declined every single time. He just wanted to experience something different, something new. So when the semester starts, they get him settled in his room, they meet his roommate, and then tearfully, they leave. Now, they told him, you gotta call us anytime, okay? All the time. Xing stayed true to his word. He called his parents very often, and he had typical teenager responses to everything. Classes are fine, schoolwork is fine, homework is fine, yes, mom, I'm eating. And for a while, Shing was able to hide the truth from his parents. The fact that he wasn't doing well, not just academically, but mentally. Shing was in a precarious situation. So the way that he was ranked in this new high school was he was ranked high enough to be placed in all the top classes. But because he had just made the cutoff, he was constantly falling short and ranking the absolute lowest in all of his classes.
So you're saying like, let's say there's 1,000 people in grade 8. He's like top 200, but each classroom has 200 students, so he's like the last person in that first 200 class.
Which is what he sees on a daily basis. Yeah.
Isn't that like sad and ironic?
Yeah. Like you do well, but it's bad for you to do well. You might as well have been placed in the class right underneath so that you could be the top of that class, right?
Yeah.
So it was really hard for him. And unlike a lot of the kids that went to the school, Shing was born to a very, very average family. And one of the main things that they tell you, no matter what country you're in, one of the easiest ways to escape your socioeconomic class is to get a high education. I'm sure he heard this over and over again and believed he was taking this one and only chance for not only helping himself, but also his family, his parents. It felt like no matter how hard he studied, he just couldn't improve. And then slowly it started feeling like, what is the point of studying if I can't even improve at all? Like, what is the point to any of this? By September 2022, Shing was allegedly so frustrated and helpless, he told his mom all of these things. He just asked, can I please just drop out? Shing, you've only been there for a couple months. And of course, it's going to be hard. It's going to be an adjustment period, but you've always been a good student. You're going to get better with time. Don't drop out. Just give it a little while longer. Shing was not having it. He told her passionately, I hate studying. I don't want to be here. I hate it here. His mom reassured him that the beginning of October was a national holiday, so that they're going to pick him up, go home. He's going to have a few days at home and it'll be great. Like maybe you just need a week off to take your mind off of things. Now, on this visit home, everyone noticed that Shing was not acting like himself. I don't think that he was acting so abnormally that warranted people to be like, oh my God, I'm so worried. I need to do something about it. But for example, he was talking to his grandma on the phone and she's like, oh my God, I didn't know you were in town. Like, when are you going to come visit me? And he snapped on her. He said, I don't have to come visit you every time I'm in town. You know that, right? It was so out of character. But people forgot about it because just 2 days later, he visited his grandma, helped with the chores, and everything seemed normal. Everyone seemed happy. Once break was over, he went back to school. That was the beginning of October, like the first week. October 14th, he went missing. So they're confused. I mean, Shing's family, they're confused at how quickly things might have developed. It didn't even cross their minds that he could have hurt himself or that he even wanted to. They never suspected a single thing. Now, authorities believe that he climbed the little ledge of the outer shed walls to tie both of his shoelaces to a tree branch and then around his neck to sustain his weight. Then he jumped from the wall ledge, letting gravity do its work and effectively ending his life. He would have to climb 15 feet up the wall, which is not impossible. Witnesses have stated sometimes students would climb up the shed walls. Not often, but it's been done before. The police believe that he put his recording pen down on the wall ledge, then jumped. That was the initial working theory. But just because something looks like it doesn't mean it is, right? That's what the family and the internet argued. The family argued, yeah, he was going through a hard time, but he would never do something like this. And with the amount of distrust the netizens already had for the police and the school, everyone wanted concrete proof that he did this. They're like, where's the letter? Where's the note? Things just aren't adding up.
What about the recording pen?
Oh, we're going to get there. So the netizens, they're like, bombarding the police with all of their suspicions. And there's a lot of suspicions. First of all, the location of the body. You guys are so close to the school's main building. This is less than 0.2 miles away. And after that long list of searches that I purposely read to you guys, because that was released by rescue teams to be like, look at how much we've searched. How the hell was his body not found? And sure, you could argue that his body was hidden by trees, but like, how the hell was the search that bad then? That inefficient? And what about the smell? Trees don't hide decomp smell. The police stated that the body's decomp was so bad, his skin had practically turned into leather. How could nobody smell that? There were even dogs brought in to sniff out cadavers. Netizens speculated that Shing was killed elsewhere and his body was brought here after the search parties were done. Then there were other things. Xing's body had no signs of a white t-shirt on, but he was seen on CCTV cameras wearing a white shirt underneath his black jacket. And speaking of black jacket, his black jacket, oh, this is weird, it was on backwards and zipped all the way up. So imagine you have a hoodie zip up, you put the arms in, and the hood is in front of your face, and you don't put the hood on your face, but you put your arms to the back and you zip up all the way.
Oh, that is so weird.
And nearly impossible. I mean, I guess it'd be possible if you
It's
put it on like a crew neck.
Yeah, at what situation would you do that?
Yeah.
That is so unnatural.
So unnatural. I mean, maybe he wanted to put the hood on to cover his face and then it fell off, but it's still very... People tried to do it at home and netizens found it nearly impossible to zip it all the way up in the back. Even the most flexible people were struggling to do this, and you're telling me that in his last moments, that is what he chose to do? And then you have the shoelace. Netizens do not believe that 1 or 2 shoelaces can withstand the weight for not just his death, but for months and months. We don't know Xing's exact weight, but looking at CCTV, he looks average to thin-sized. So this one, I don't know what to think. So even though his body was found, it looked like there were more mysteries, more questions, and it was only getting deeper. Netizens started to scream online, "We need to figure out where his feet were pointed." Netizens argued that if his feet were pointed downwards, like his toes were pointing to the ground, then he must have died via hanging. But if they were parallel to the floor, then he might have died in a separate position when rigor mortis had set in, and then his body was hanged.
Yeah.
To this day, it was never released where his feet were pointing, which is pretty easy to prove in 2023 with crime scene photos. I mean, you don't have to release the photos, but you could just tell people where the feet were pointing. But because of these questions, the police had failed to answer immediately and satisfy the online theories. These theories spread like wildfire. So let's explore some of the biggest conspiracies before the police come back with their own theory. The evil chemistry teacher. Let's call him Teacher B. Teacher B was not only Xing's chemistry teacher, but also his homeroom teacher. So this is going to be the teacher that is most in tune with Xing, like the most... They're working side by side. The internet hates this guy. A lot of it is pretty privilege. I'm dead serious. People literally hated the way he looked, stating that he didn't look like a good person. He didn't look like a good teacher. He was bald, had small eyes, and a big build, which many netizens deemed to not be a morally nice person look. I don't even know how to unpack that one. But from there, it was just confirmation bias. They found all these things about him online that they didn't like about him. And to be fair, they were pretty bad, okay? But I don't know if it makes him capable of murder. Teacher B graduated from one of the top universities in China, which is why it was easy for other teachers to overlook the fact that he was the principal's nephew. He had the education to back up his position, and he apparently did so well that he was quickly promoted as vice principal. I'm sure it had nothing to do with his relation to the principal. He took the role, but he also kept teaching chem, and he kept his homeroom class. People said he was a genius. People said that he could have easily found a way to kill Xing in a way that would be undetected in Xing's body. And maybe he did it to prove this guy seemed egotistical. That's what people said. Maybe he did it to prove that he could commit the absolute perfect murder. Other evidence, quote, evidence, if you will, to back it up, is Xing's family came to record at the school to show the public that nothing was being done about their son. So they're like filming around the school, and Teacher B was there, and he's like, "Hey, can you stop filming me?" Asking the Hu family. And the way that he spoke to the family was very heartless. Most people felt compassion for the parents, but the way that he was doing it was like, "Hey, legally, you're not allowed to film me." Very Karen. And technically, Teacher B was in his legal right to ask the Hu family to stop recording, but they refused, and they were very upset. They were saying things like, "Okay, well, if you don't want to be filmed, then you can stand away from the camera. Like, we're not trying to get you. You can stand over there. We're not trying to film you. Get out of the way then, if you don't want to be in the video." Teacher B said, "No, I'm going to stay right here. Why should I move?"
就为了家属为了取证嘛，拿手机在录视频，然后其中有一位老师就很凶，他说你不要录，你不倾向了我的肖像权。然后我们家属说，你要是介意你的肖像权，你可以走远一点，你不要来凑这个热闹，你可以回避。他说不行，我说不行，然后呢，我说你长得一不像刘德华，二长得不像郭富城，我录你干嘛？然后后来他很凶的抢我老婆的手机，把我的手机的老婆这个弄裂了。然后就是这个光头老师，他很凶，你看来抢了。
Netizens didn't like it. I mean, it wasn't a good look for Teacher B. And technically, it doesn't make him guilty of murder, but I will say it's a very strange reaction. Netizens said, as Xing's homeroom teacher, a student from one of his classes was missing. Shouldn't he be actively cooperating with the parents or, I don't know, have at least a little bit more compassion? But it seemed like he just was very like, no, legally, you're not allowed to film me. It's just weird. Mm-hmm. Later, netizens found an online forum from students who went to that high school, and apparently teacher B got into a fight with another teacher one time, and that other teacher got into the hospital and had to get 10 stitches because of this fight. Remember how the police had professionals look through the security tapes to see if the footage had been tampered with, and they said that it wasn't? Well, after the professionals came back saying that they hadn't been edited, the Hu family lawyer got a hold of the tapes and took it to their own professionals. They were able to recover some footage. And that footage showed the chemistry teacher and the school principal entering the CCTV camera monitoring room. So even though the logs were deleted, we do know at least they were in the room where you could monitor the CCTV cameras.
So now, they did delete stuff.
It could be very easily argued that they did not delete stuff, but they were trying to look at the CCTV camera to see where he had gone because he went missing. Which is a very normal response. You know, I imagine if someone went missing.
But then why would you delete that then, right?
But the police are saying it wasn't deleted, it was faulty. Like it was a glitch.
Okay.
Yeah, the system glitched.
Okay.
So, I mean, you could argue both ways, and it would make complete sense both ways. So it's very hard to say. Now, they allegedly stayed there until about 2 a.m. the next day, about the time that Xing's father first got to the school. Now, you could argue that's a lot of time to delete and alter footage and come up with a story. Other people could argue, yeah, because they're probably so panicked about looking for answers because the dad is about to show up and demand answers. And to be fair, it is the principal and the vice principal, so it kind of makes sense. But I don't know. Do I think he's a good person? No. He made another teacher get stitches, but I don't think it was right for the internet to drag him through the mud and accuse him of murdering a 15-year-old. There were headlines that just had his picture and wrote, "Murderer of Student Xing," or headlines that read, "Xing was evaporated by chemicals made by his chemistry teacher." And a lot of the comments were like, yeah, you could just tell he's evil just by looking at him, which is pretty privileged. Then you have the principal theory. So remember, the principal is the chemistry teacher's uncle. So these two theories are about to merge. According to some of Xing's classmates, Xing had a girlfriend. And there was a rumor that Xing went to visit his girlfriend in her dorm room at around 10:30 a.m. October 1st. So 2 weeks before he vanished. And he found the principal in there with his pants around his ankles. Classmates said Xing saw the principal quickly pull up his pants and push past Xing as he left the room. His girlfriend started crying and told him through her sobs that she had been R-worded by the principal. Allegedly, the next day, the principal had a little chat with Xing to force him to keep quiet about what he saw, and the principal had to make sure he kept his mouth shut because if not, not only could he lose his job, but the principal would find himself in prison for 3 to 10 years if this ever got out. So maybe, just maybe, the principal asked the chemistry teacher, his nephew, to help him, you know? A piece of evidence to support this theory is that apparently Xing had called his mom on that day crying and just said that he really wanted to cry, but no matter how much she asked, he refused to tell her the reason why. The two of them, potentially, the theory is, plotted for Xing to go missing, and they asked him to meet with them on the night of October 14th, and that's why the cameras were scheduled to be shut off. So they scheduled for the cameras to all go down. They were going to meet with him, so instead of him heading to studying class, he was going to go meet with the principal and the vice principal. Other things that support this theory was that there were rumors that this school had mistreated students and led them to take their own lives. 3 years ago, a female student ended her life by jumping from the roof. The school allegedly gave her family over $100,000 to keep quiet. A few months before Xing died, another girl died, and the story was that she was caught cheating on her test and her teacher wanted her to pay money.
What?
It sounds like blackmail, like, hey, pay me money and I'm not going to report it type of thing. She was very stressed and ashamed and she ended her life. Now, some students said that's not actually what happened. She was essayed by administrators and that's why she took her life. Again, these are all internet speculations. There are 2 students that did die other than Xing, but the reason why, it's all speculation. Now, in the end, the police cleared the chemistry teacher and the principal of any wrongdoing. So then we have the blanket theory. The what theory? So some deleted footage from CCTV cameras were recovered by the hired professionals from the family, and one of them was from the stairs of the dorm building. Remember where their professional sniffer dogs came in and also signaled? And the footage shows around the time that Xing disappeared, there was a white blanket that fell down the stairs. And the white blanket, like imagine throwing a white blanket down the stairs. You kind of can already picture how it's going to tumble down the stairs. This white blanket looks like Casper the Friendly Ghost. Like the way that it falls down the stairs, it looks like there's something in the white blanket. I'm going to be honest with you. It looks like something's in the white blanket. But the theory gets a little crazy, okay? They said that someone had thrown this white blanket over Xing and thrown him down the stairs and then cut off the CCTV cameras and then disposed of his body. Personally, the strange shape to it, the way it falls, it's weird, but we've already seen Xing walk out of the building. But it is weird. It's a very strange coincidence. Now, the blanket theory goes cold for a while, and in comes the theory you were talking about, the panda blood theory. This is perhaps the most outlandish theory, but there was a rumor that Xing had a very, very rare blood type. The rumor was that only 1% of the population had this rare blood type, hence the name panda blood. The school might have known that he had this blood, maybe from his past medical records that were submitted or from a nurse's visit, but people speculated that an illegal organization must have been after his blood. Why would they kill a student for this type of blood? I mean, a student in a boarding school, you're going to get so much attention. Well, the theory was that a very powerful person, a government official of some sort, needed this blood to survive. The principal and the chemistry teacher were in on it to make a profit, so they shut down the security cameras. They helped with the kidnapping of the kid, and yeah. Now, the thing is, netizens said that he had Rh blood. But Rh is not a blood type. It's a protein. So either you have this protein or you don't. There's only 4 known blood types. There's A, B, AB, and O. And if you have the Rh protein, you're typically a positive blood type. Like you're either A plus, B plus, AB plus, or O plus. So it's not really rare at all.
So panda blood is not really a thing.
Yeah. I mean, I believe there are rarer blood types. Like O blood is highly sought after because,
Yeah, but it's common.
Yeah. Some people said it was for his organs, but I mean, you would imagine then that his entire body would have been drained of blood completely if it was a rare blood type, or that his organs would have been missing, and there is no indication of any of that. In the end, the police did find evidence that he had taken his own life. So remember the recording pen that he had left behind. Mm-hmm. They were able to retrieve all the audio, and the police handed over the audio recordings to the family, but the police did not release them to the public. It's just really dark. The transcripts were released. October 14th, the day of the disappearance, at 5:40 p.m. So this is when he's on that 5th floor balcony. He turned on his pen and he said, "Now that I'm standing here, I feel so nervous. My heart is beating so fast. To be honest, I don't really have a reason why. I just feel like life has no meaning. What would happen if I jump? I don't know. Probably no one would notice for now, but after a few days, people will definitely notice. Why didn't I jump? I really want to jump? No, maybe I don't." The second recording was taken the same day at 11:08 p.m. It's speculated that this was when he took his own life. And he said, "There's no more meaning. It's almost midnight. I might as well just wait a little bit longer and die. I can do it because today I just feel so unsure. Now I just want to die. I really feel like there's no longer any meaning in life." Fellow students and teachers came to state that he expressed on multiple occasions that he was stressed. He had insomnia. He was struggling to stay focused on his studies. It's believed that the tipping point for 15-year-old Xing was just 3 days before his disappearance. He ranked the lowest in his class on his geography test. Other notes were found in his notebook that were not just random scribbles and doodles, and he wrote, "If I feel useless, I should think about where to go and bring up the idea of going back home. First, I should consider how to tell teacher A. It's best to be specific. I'm worried about how this will affect others. I don't want to bother her. I'll just adjust my emotions myself. I care a lot about how others feel, but I'm not unsociable." Another one said, "It's so hard to adapt to this new environment. My introverted personality is so annoying. Maybe I can't blame it all on my personality. This is just me. I can write to calm down my emotions, though." Another one, "I finally understand those people with insomnia. At night, you just think about all these random bizarre things. And I finally know why my eyesight is getting worse. I keep staring at the book on my table. I don't even dare to look up at the blackboard. I'm scared the teacher might notice me looking with a blank and confused expression on my face. and then she'll get annoyed. I hate seeing people get annoyed at me, but at the same time, I treat people with such negative attitude too. I haven't changed my habit of procrastination. I do this every time. I leave my homework till the very last minute and just simply complete it the next day. I'm not super rushed. At least I can get some sleep. Psychologists who studied this case stated that Xing was a people pleaser. He was introverted. He had a very delicate personality where he was very, if someone was disappointed or annoyed with him, he took it very, very harshly. He took it personally. He seemed really, really depressed at the fact that he only ranked 58th. And it's not just the ranking that was so psychologically impactful for him. It was the fact that he felt like his parents were disappointed. Even his teacher, who he had just met a few months ago, he hated seeing them being disappointed. An autopsy was released that showed Xing's body had no blunt force trauma, all of his bones were in place, and there were no abnormal bone fractures or other damage to his bones identified. His organs were all there, and they showed no signs of internal bleeding. There was no traces of drugs or poison in his system. As for the other questions, the white shirt, forensic experts came out to state that when you are that far in decomposition, your skin starts to decompose, and oftentimes there's almost like a bubbly acid, like a liquid that will start to form, and it seeps out of the body. It's not acid, but it does have not a disintegrating texture, but for example, it's like if you were wearing a shirt and you got wet in the rain and it starts sticking to your body. Like that could potentially happen during decomp, and it caused the white shirt to stick to his body. And then the further along that he got in the decomposition and being exposed to the outdoors and exposed to the elements as well as other organisms like maggots and flies and wild animals, basically his body blackened and rotted, and so did the white t-shirt. They stated that this was nothing new or strange in the decomposition process. What about the shoelace? It was argued that because there were 2 shoelaces, it held his weight and he was a little bit on the frailer side. Now, why didn't they find his body sooner? The police argued that because there were usually stationed guards at this abandoned shed 24/7, when rescuers came to search the area, the guard just let them know that nobody had gone in or out of the sheds recently. So they just visually combed the area and left, and a thorough search was never done. Now, this one feels iffy, but it kind of reminds me of people being incompetent. I think the way that he got into that area, there probably wasn't a guard paying attention, or maybe there was never a guard there, but the school was supposed to have a guard there. So they faked it later and was like, oh yeah, the guard was there, but I guess he just missed him. In the end, ultimately, it did seem like all the roads lead to him making the choice. The Hu family, they were devastated at their loss, and I'm sure there's a lot of emotions to unpack. I think with cases like this, there's a lot of guilt. It didn't help that the netizens turned on the Hu family. A lot of netizens completely switched sides and went from giving support to Mrs. Hu to asking her, how did you not know? Were you just a tiger mom that only cared about grades? Maybe you pushed your son here. They were saying things like, how do you not even notice that he's struggling? Xing's mom cried and said, I didn't have a high education level. I didn't even know what depression was. I thought providing food, clothes, and education to my children was everything I needed to do. The online hate got so bad that Mrs. Hu deleted the post about her son. They also had to move out of their family home. The case was not completely shut and done, though. There are some still loose ends and theories floating around. First of all, netizens still have questions about how the body was when it was found. The jacket being on backwards is a big detail. Even just the fact that they didn't find the body sooner is a big detail that puzzled the internet. But as for the jacket, a psychologist came out and argued, sometimes people who are making this decision, they will do strange things that are hard for other people to understand. It shows their dissatisfaction in certain areas of their life. And in Xing's case, coming from a bit more superstitious background, it could mean that wearing his jacket backwards or throwing his, things backwards means that he hopes that in the afterlife, things would be the opposite of how they are in this life. They also stated that some people choose to leave a letter by stating their grief, but others choose to leave quietly. And the psychologist stated sometimes people deliberately leave in a way that is mysterious, almost as their own sort of revenge on the world. I don't know. All I can say is from his notebook and writing, it seems like he was deteriorating mentally. And oftentimes people don't notice how others are doing until it's too late. All we can do is just hope Xing is in a better place and that his family is able to slowly recover from their loss. I will say about the conspiracies on this case, I saw online discourse about it and I found it fascinating, but for a lot of netizens in China, they said that it was easier to come up with these conspiracies than face the harsh reality that the education system in China is so competitive and so cutthroat, it can even drive a 15-year-old to do or want to do unthinkable things. And sometimes coming up with these bizarre theories or conspiracies are just a way to cope with the depressing reality of this case. And I can sympathize with that to a degree, but I don't know. What are your thoughts? Please stay safe, and I will see you guys on Sunday for the mini-sode. Bye.